Hey friends, Red Boswell with IFPG, here today to discuss the seventh mistake I often see, or is it seven? Seven? The seventh mistake I often see franchisors make, and it's not really thinking through and properly addressing resales in their franchise agreement, okay? Most people listening right now might be an early Zora, an emerging brand. Maybe you're considering going into franchising for the first time with your model, or you're a more established brand. Regardless, take another look, or perhaps a first look, at your resale strategy, strategy is a good word for it. Strategy and how you're going to help down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. How are you going to address resales? Now, this may seem like a simple topic. When I was a franchisor, I oversimplified it too. I thought, well, gosh, I guess there's some kind of little resale, fee. We got to pay a little bit of legal. We got to do some training. Are we going to include training in that resale fee, or does the new franchisee need to pay for training separate? Is it a percentage of cash flow? Is it just a set figure? Does it go up after 5 years? So some of the basics right there that you need to address, but something I've encountered numerous times, especially in this role as president of IFPG, and that is, what if the broker's involved? Okay, so in your agreement, and normally I would say, counsel with an attorney on this, and certainly that's part of this message, but a lot of times attorneys don't think through this. They're not familiar at all with the broker world, or perhaps they are just over the top conservative on this. And you always want a good conservative attorney, right? But at some point they've got to have a taste of reality too. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. Here's where I'm going with it. Let's say you work with brokers, and maybe you don't now as you're starting, but there's a good chance every Zora on this video is going to work with a broker group at some point. Consultants, matchmakers, advisors, coaches, etc. And how is that going to work? Follow me here. You've invested lots of time, lots of effort, lots of money perhaps, working with the broker community, building up trust, building up relationships with hundreds of franchise consultants. They're out there getting you some leads. One of them, maybe your favorite, gets you a great candidate. They're going through your process. They're qualified. Spouse is loving it. Territory's available. Everything's looking nice and pretty. Now you get to the validation stage. Validation stages are usually fairly far through that franchise discovery process. There's validating with another local franchisee. That's the most popular one to validate with, someone in the local market. And that local franchisee, you know where I'm going, says, hey, I'm thinking about exiting. Time to retire. My kids don't want the business. Maybe I'm unhappy, maybe I'm happy, not a factor. But hopefully they're happy if they're going to validate positively. Why don't you buy mine? Why don't you buy my franchise instead of a new one? Get you a killer deal. Now what happens? Think about all the parties here. You got the franchisee. Can you tell them no? Can you tell this new franchisee you're not allowed to prospect one of the Zora leads? Can you? I mean, that's a kind of a legal question, really. A lot of Zoras say no. Some attorneys say no. Man, I'm of the opinion you own the Zora always has can turn down a candidate. Now you got to be able to justify when you're turning down that candidate that's a resale candidate. I am of the firm opinion, many attorneys disagree, okay, that you own that brand, you're the Zora, you can turn down a candidate, a resale candidate, if the selling franchisee refuses to pay your agreed upon commission that you're obligated to pay to that franchise broker, that consultant. Think about it from a different angle. Franchise consultant invested a lot of time, money, effort, trust this Zora, got a contract agreement with this franchisor that I get you, the broker gets you a great candidate, you take them through the process. Everybody spent a lot of time, money, and effort on this person. And suddenly, out from left field comes a validating franchisee that says, nah, I'm going to sell mine. Does the Zora, what obligations, responsibilities, and rights does the Zora have? Does the consultant broker have? Does that selling franchisee have? It's a serious conversation here. It's a critical conversation that I've had the joy and the horror of getting in between on multiple occasions, not just as president of IFPG, but also I've actually encountered it as a VP of development or a chief development officer, in this exact scenario. So you want to plan ahead before it happens. So put some terminology. Here's a simple way. Again, attorneys may disagree. Put some simple terminology in there that addresses it in the franchise agreement. Maybe add an addendum later if you're just hearing about this for the first time and you've got some franchisees out there. Certainly put it in your ops manual. Some say that doesn't address it properly from a legal standpoint, but regardless, just know that if a consultant gets you a candidate and that candidate is then taken by one of your franchisees who's trying to sell their business, and you as a Zor don't take care of that consultant, hell will knoweth no fury, as a broker scorned, as I think it says a woman scorned. But anyway, it will be a bad situation, and they talk, and the perhaps years that you've invested in those broker relationships will be torched. So just think about that as you plan your overall strategy. How am I going to handle it legally and otherwise, communications especially? I mean, you should be including this topic in your new franchisee training. New Z's are there for the week or two training with you. One of the topics that should be in training, in the ops manual, in your legal documents, is a thorough addressing of down the road when you resell, when it comes time to change hands, if that lead that ultimately buys comes to us / you, Mr. Franchisee or Mrs. Franchisee, through a third party, we, the Zor, have certain obligations we've agreed to handle, to meet with that third party. You would be qualified, and if you do not agree to follow those agreements that we've engaged in, then we will not approve the transfer. I hear some attorneys screaming at the screen already. Some say that can't be done. It's your brand. It's your documents. I think it's common sense and very logical that it indeed can be done. Conflicting topic here, but regardless, think about it. Hope that helped you. Number 7 mistake I see franchisors make often. As president of IFPG, Red Boswell here, not addressing properly and thoroughly on all topics related to franchise resales in your documents, in your operations, in your training. Thanks.